the thing about beavers is that they're supposed to build dams, and they do build dams, but I think since we've had beavers at Mapperton, we've done more human dam building than ever before. So you will recall that these banks burst because the pond rose so high, the banks couldn't cope and they burst, and we have spent hundreds of man hours building them back up again using modern construction techniques like sandbags and chopped wood. And Ben and the team of volunteers were here yesterday, and they've done an absolutely magnificent job, because this dam here, there's now two of them, this one had collapsed again. If I can make it over without falling in. This whole section had come down and the water was pouring through. And I think they put another 50 sandbags in here, but more than that, they've brought all the silt over to pack it like cement. And there is now no water going through the bottom there. This is job done, at least for now. And you can see the pond is starting to fill, but it's not completely filling. And the reason it's not filling is that, having plugged the hole over here, this dam has now started to give way. You can see all the water running around the side. You know, water always finds a way, doesn't it? So there's no water coming out this side, but we've got to stop it coming through this side. And the question is how? And even if we do plug that, is it just going to find its way around again? So I think we're going to leave it for a bit, hope that the water comes up. In the meantime, I've started the process of reapplying for a license to bring our beavers back to Mapperton, because really they ought to be doing this work for us. It's not really a very good idea for humans to be building as many dams when the beavers can do a much better job than we can. A couple of years ago, we brought beavers back to Mapperton. Woody and Twiggy were their names, and they lived very happily in a wonderful wood called Holeacre on the estate. Now, Woody and Twiggy had a large pond, they built themselves a lodge, they had lots of food, they even had company as we would go and visit them and bring tours of people. But perhaps understandably, they decided that they wanted to go on holiday. They wanted to explore the wider world, the world beyond their enclosure here at Mapperton. And I think we get that. At the same time, as things stand, we are not allowed to release beavers into the wild. And so when Woody and Twiggy escaped, we went out and we looked for them. And guess what? We found them. We found them only about a mile away. They'd gone down the River Mangerton and they'd established a new home. I think they'd probably found somewhere quite close to some apples, which is one of their favourite foods. And we were able to put a trap out and recapture both Woody and Twiggy. Now, amazingly, when this happened, we thought, well, we'll tell the local papers in Dorset about Woody and Twiggy's great escape, and it went viral. Before we knew it, it was headlining the BBC. Everybody was calling up, wanting to know how Woody and Twiggy were getting on. And not only did we get lots of coverage when we lost Woody and Twiggy, but when we found them and they came back, that was big news as well. Unfortunately, only a few months later, they escaped again. Why did they escape? Well, they escaped because we've had so many storms that the rainfall going down the stream through their enclosure brings with it lots of logs and rocks, and it broke through the bottom gate of the enclosure, and we kept fixing it, and then we'd have another storm and it would break it again. And that created an opening, and Woody and Twiggy made their last escape, and we have not seen them for months. So today we're going to have one last hunt for Woody and Twiggy. We've got a wonderful team of volunteers here at Mapperton who are coming out with us, and we're going to go out and we're going to go up and down the river and see if we can find them. The great Mapperton beaver hunt.
Again, another one.
Another one, yeah. This is a bit of deja vu, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. What's the plan for today?
So luckily we've got our volunteers, and we're just going to split into 2 groups and have a really good walk and search around and have a look down the river for any signs, any feeding, any scats, anything like that. So that's the plan. So hopefully we'll have a bit of an indication if they've. Because what they could have done, they could have gone away and then come back because that's the same. We don't know.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since we had a good poke round down there. So
you would think they'd want to come home to Mapperton, where they are so welcome, compared to other places where they may not be so welcome.
Yeah.
But there are various people who have various ideas of where they might be. Have you got any particular clues? Any places we're going to focus on?
Yeah, so we're focusing on the areas where they've been before, because hopefully they're sort of a creature of habit, so they'll be wanting to be in those areas. And down that stream, there's like little pools, there's little areas where they can tuck away, some real quiet areas as well. So hopefully it would be nice just to see. They might have sort of first thing when they escape, they just normally have to go for a big adventure and see what's about, and then they can come back as well.
They can come back having marked out their
territory.
Marked out their territory.
Great. Exactly.
Now, we are making a film for Mapperton Live, but at the same time as we're making a film, the BBC have come to visit Mapperton.
Yes.
And we have Sophie here. Welcome, Sophie, to Mapperton.
Thank you. I've actually never been here before. Heard lots about it though, so I'm excited to go and beaver hunt.
You're excited to go beaver hunt?
Yeah.
So Woody and Twiggy, obviously international celebrities, in large part because the first time they got out, there was a huge story on the BBC.
There was, yes. So I was actually news reading for BBC Radio Solent at the time. So I've been following this story since 2022 when they were released. And obviously then Great Escape Part 1, as you called it. And now we're on Great Escape Part 2.
Great Escape Part 2. And why do you think Woody and Twiggy have captured the imagination? What is it?
Well, I think it's a different kind of rewilding project as well, isn't it? We don't really have anything like this in Dorset.
Yeah.
And I just think a cute little pair of beavers. Everyone loves animals, don't they? Although I have been told that they aren't this size, which is what I thought they were. They're about this big. Chewing away at all of the twigs and all of the nature here at Mapperton.
Yeah.
So I think cute little animals. Everyone loves that, don't they?
So you're going to follow us around today and meet members of the volunteering team.
Yes.
And hopefully help us, look for a few beaver clues yourself.
Yeah. So have a little explore on the estate and find out what different things beavers do here.
Yeah. And when's this going live?
This will go live on Monday, so it will be on BBC Radio Solent's Alan Newman show and Steve Harris's show. Hopefully we'll have a little social video for you as well, and also you will be able to read it on the BBC News Online Dorset page.
Fantastic. May the story of Woody and Twiggy continue.
Yes.
Where the engineering's been going on, because the water rushes down here and would hit the grill at the bottom and cause the holes in the fence and other problems. So we put in all these reinforcements, and that's creating obviously a much stronger barrier, and it's giving much more support to the grill that you can see at the bottom. And then the idea with the 2 gates is that where you've got big logs and stones coming down, it'll push them to the side rather than have them hit the grill.
This is typically like when we're looking, this is what you're going to have to keep an eye on. It'll just be stuff like that, so you can see that this is quite old. bits of feeding, just so you can see their incisors and how much damage it makes. Obviously that's just natural regeneration, so just the regrowth from the coppice hazel. But it's just you'll be looking at all these sorts of things. So they've stripped off all the bark as well. That you can see that's where the bark still is, and that's obviously where they've taken it off. So that's what you'll see.
And you can see here, this part is still standing, but not because they didn't give it a good go. And we can't see any chips. I think the chips have gone because it's been too long.
Yeah.
But that gives you a really good sense of what we're looking for. And this is where the beavers have come, and they've started the process of bringing the whole tree down. But Ben, I don't know what we think. Do we think that they know that when they ring bark a tree, it's going to eventually kill it and it'll come down?
Yeah.
Or they're just sort of testing to see which ones they prefer?
They will do as well, because you can see further up in the enclosure where they've ring barked another beech that's actually fallen down. So you can see that that's in time, over that time, it's just killed off the root structure. And it's just given up, so you can just see that's that one with the big root bulb that's just like popped over. So yeah, so they've got it's taken a long time, but everything that they do has got purpose. And
problem is we've had so many heavy storms that too much water has got into that pond, and it's caused it to burst its banks. So what the hydrologist has said to us is that we actually need to restrict the flow into here. That's why, you've now got most of the water going that way and a smaller amount going through. But the problem we've got obviously at the other side is that water keeps finding its way around each time we repair the banks. But was this done before the last storm then?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's held up pretty well.
Yeah, this was done last Thursday. This is when the storm was just starting.
Right. So this really will have held off the water from getting in and being too bad, won't it? So we're just looking at the water flow into the pond, and because we've had these horrendous storms, we've had so much water running through that it's started to create these channels. And this channel of water here, when there's a storm, even when we build up the bank, it seems to find its way round. So the hope is that we can do one more lot of sandbags to really connect the bank that we've built. I mean, all of this from here is now man-made because the whole thing collapsed in the storm. So I think there's some hope that with a few more sandbags we might hold it back. But let's go have a look. So we can see how the stream has worked its way round. So the question is, can we construct something now to block this part? Divert some of the water over here, but it's now created this channel, so it's going to be hard. Now, one of the fun things about walking along at Mapperton is that you suddenly find yourself looking at the ground, and lo and behold, there is a fossil. It's quite a good one here. If I can get it out. That, if you can see, looks like an ammonite. What do you think, Ben? You found something. You found something today, didn't you?
Looks like an ammonite.
What did you find?
That's just like a bit of a shell.
That's a seashell, isn't it? That, is a shell. I don't know what kind of shell that is. Some sort of mollusk. Mollusk and ammonite. Yeah, we'll take those. Nice bit of Mapperton prehistoric treasure.
They would have escaped together, so they shouldn't have escaped on their own. If they have, then they've broken up as a pair. So yeah, but what you will see as well, when it's like silty like this, you actually see footprints and you'll see where they're sliding into the water. If you get to a part on the river where this is really good because it's almost like a naturally formed dam. But what you'll see is if a beaver's been upstream, then the sticks that they've been feeding on will float into this and get wedged up here. So when I was searching for them the first time, I'd actually find quite a lot of sticks that have been fed on, and they've just washed up and pushed up against this. It's not a dam, but it's just a naturally formed dam because the branches come down, everything's just got wedged up on it. But there hasn't been any activity on here. You can't see anything else. So yeah, so we'll start getting this way now. Hopefully we'll actually start seeing a bit more the other side of the enclosure. There's not much signs of anything really. I haven't seen anything that's giving us a good indication. There's a couple of almost formed dams up here, so hopefully we'll have a good look and see if anything's caught on them, but at the moment it's going very slow. We're having a good look round, but we just can't see much. So we've got our team of volunteers here that are walking down the river stream just to see if there's any action, any movement, and to see what's about. So yeah.
Any good signs?
Unfortunately, we haven't seen anything really. We've got lots of stuff from the couple of years before, but nothing too recent. So there's not really good signs at the moment. But we haven't got to the next stretch of water. So hopefully we'll find something on the next bit.
Lots of evidence of other forms of wildlife here. So we can see roe deer tracks running through here, but so far not much evidence of beavers. But we'll keep looking. Now, we haven't found any beavers yet, but this is some new equipment that's just been put into the river, which is monitoring its height and also its flow. Because one of the projects that we've got here at Mapperton, because beavers aren't allowed on this long stretch of river, is actually putting in some dams as if we were beavers. So they're what's called leaky dams, and we're going to be chopping down trees close to the river, laying the logs across the river and creating a barrier. And we'll have about 20 or 30 of these along here, all slowing the water flow in the hope that we can help stop flooding in Bridport. You know that the Woody and Twiggy story has been incredibly popular nationally in the papers here in the UK, but it's also been an international story. And guess what? We've got the BBC following us today. They are also here on the beaver hunt. Sophie, who's behind me, is recording a short piece at the moment because everybody's interested in Woody and Twiggy, and it will be very disappointing for the wider world if Woody and Twiggy can't be found and brought back to their home. At the same time, there'll be lots of people who are delighted that they're off exploring the countryside, making the best use of the rivers and building a wonderful new lodge and dam somewhere downstream. We've split into two groups. We've got one group that's carrying on down the Mangerton, and Chris, watch out, it's muddy. You're going to go in. And the other group is heading off to another part of the river system. This is actually on the Brit itself, and it's in an area known as Slape, where there's a particular orchard that we've seen the beavers in before. So we want to go off there and see if by any chance they've decided to make a return visit. Right, we've come down to the main part of the river system. This is the River Brit, and the River Brit meets up with the Mangerton So if Woody and Twiggy have escaped and headed downstream, they are then coming back upstream to get into the River Brit. And we know that beavers like this area because we spotted one. In fact, we made did some filming where we actually found evidence of probably Woody roaming around in the orchard looking for apples, and we caught him on the camera trap, but we never managed to trap him. So we're here today to see if by chance Woody is back. This is the orchard, and this is the River Brit at the bottom, and you can see various orchard trees, apple trees, and so in the season the whole place is laden with fruit, which makes it an absolutely perfect beaver habitat. But just now it's looking quite bare. But anyway, let's walk along and see if we can see any evidence of anything along the side. Now when we had the beaver here before, one of the bits of evidence was that the beavers had created chutes into the river. So the beaver would have gone into the orchard, had some delicious apple, decided it's time for a swim, and lies on his back and shoots down into the river, and you'd have these chutes that you could see where the beaver had laid his track. It was amazing. But we're not getting any further on this side, I don't think. There's another orchard on the other side, but I don't think we're crossing the river either. Look at the stuff that ends up coming down. What you can also see is, I mean, look at all the sand that's come up here. The water flow, when there's a huge storm, is pushing up. It's creating all of this here, and all of this stuff that is coming down the river, and all the sand on the top. So it'd be an absolute torrent at some times of the year, and all the sand on the other side too. Right, back at Mapperton. How'd it go, Ben?
Yeah, not as successful as I think we're hoping, but yeah, there was any signs from last year, so there's no fresh signs, so obviously they're not here, are they?
I don't think Woody and Twiggy are still here at Mapperton, which is rather sad to have to admit. But I think we can hope that they are off somewhere in this wonderfully lush countryside and impressive river system, having the time of their lives, just not anywhere that we can find them. Yeah. Which of course means that one day, hopefully somebody will find them. They have got a microchip, so if they ever get found, we will know that they're Woody and Twiggy. But if not, we will have to start looking for some new beavers for Mapperton. And that in itself is rather exciting. And some people would say that actually the fact that Woody and Twiggy are out building dams wherever they are is quite a good thing for our river system.
Yeah,
and the more beavers that we can get out there, the better for the countryside. What do you think?
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, great. Ben, thanks so much, and hopefully the volunteers had a good time anyway.
Yeah, they loved it.
They did, didn't they? It was a lovely day for a beaver hunt. Now, many of you watching this channel may think that I'm just standing in the middle of a rather boring green field. And of course, everybody is entitled to their opinion. But this, to me, is a field full of opportunity. Now, we've visited it before, I believe, on Mapperton Live, because one of the ideas that we've had for this field is that it should become a campsite, an opportunity for people who want to visit Mapperton wildlands to pitch their tent, to enjoy the stunning scenery, the proximity to the coast, go and visit the pigs, the horses, and the cattle, and of course that would be a wonderful thing. But since we put those plans together, another opportunity has appeared, and that opportunity is called biodiversity net gain. Now that may strike people as a rather dry and boring title, and indeed it is, but it represents real opportunity for Mapperton, but also for nature recovery. Let me explain a bit more. You see, beneath my feet, we have some really rather boring plant species. In particular, we've got clover, and we have grass, or perennial ryegrass. This field is basically full of ryegrass and clover. There's the odd dock, one or two other things. And that makes it a really poor quality field from a biodiversity standpoint. There's really only 2 species here. Now, in the past, that of course has been good and continues to be good for grazing. Cattle in particular get a lot of nutrition from these 2 species. But if your objective is to restore ecosystems, then actually there's not much that's going to happen here. And this is where it gets interesting. Britain is one of the most nature depleted countries in the world. We rank at the bottom of the G7. We're in the bottom 10% of countries globally. And the reason for that is that we've had such a period of intensive agriculture, particularly after the war, focused quite rightly on producing enough food for the nation, that we've done it at the expense of our plant and animal species. And this country, along with many others, has signed up to something called 30 by 30. This is a commitment to set aside 30% of our land area for nature by 2030. And currently, it's less than 9%. In fact, some people argue it's less than 3%. So we've got a long way to go in only 6 years. And so what is the government going to do about that? How are we possibly going to get to 2030 setting aside 30% of our land area for nature? Now, one of the ways that this can be achieved is through encouraging nature recovery projects. And one of the government's plans in this regard is to require developers, people building housing, people putting in new building developments, to offset the harm that is being created by those developments by investing in nature recovery elsewhere. And this is now law in the UK. If you are a developer, you have to offset by 110% any harm that you're causing. And in order to do that, farmers, landowners now have an opportunity to invest in nature recovery and in return receive payments from developers in order to support the costs of that project. And this is a rather wonderful thing, because it means that finally there's going to be funding, enough funding to do some really important projects. And here at Mapperton, we hope to be one of the first in Dorset. Now these fields here, and it totals around about 14 acres, are called emmets. And in the past, I think it's been arable, so we've probably had a wheat crop in here. Obviously at the moment it's pasture. I can also remember a time when it was full of maize, and that was creating a cover crop for pheasant shooting. But now we are about to embark on a project to replant all of these fields with wildflowers. And the idea is that if we start with a very low baseline, which is what we have at the moment, because all we've got is ryegrass and clover, that's very poor in ecological terms, and we end up with a wonderful, rich tapestry of different wildflower species. We might have corky fruited water dropwort, we might have orchids, we might have all sorts of wonderful thistles, bird's foot trefoil, oxeye daisies. I mean, the thing could just be alive with colour and life, and all of the invertebrates, the bees, the pollinators that come as part of that. Then obviously if that was what this field turned into, it would be a wonderful thing for nature. And let's not forget that we've lost something like 95% of our wildflower meadows over the last 50 years. And what's rather wonderful is that this work has already begun. We had a team of volunteers helping us plant a whole new hedge along this fence line, and these are all native species. We've got hazel, we've got blackthorn, we've got field maple. This is going to form the most wonderful hedge over the next few years, which will form a natural boundary but also a wildlife corridor for all sorts of species. And what's really important is that we get paid. So the hedge is an improvement in biodiversity. The wildflower meadow that we're going to be creating here is a massive improvement in biodiversity. And the funding that we get to do these things will help not only here, but also with the wider rewilding project, because it'll enable us to do other things that are essential in that project, like putting in more ponds, like creating more wildflower areas, and indeed some of the fencing that we need to pull out and some of the cattle grids that we want to put in. So even on a site like this, which is relatively small, we can find that the uplift that we create in terms of positive things for nature delivers a lot of extra income to the estate, which is so vital when we look at all the other costs we've got of our nature recovery project here. So how does this work in practice? Well, there's quite a lot you've got to do to get ready for selling biodiversity net gain units. The first thing you've got to do is choose your land area. And obviously we've chosen this field here. We've got another site on the other side of the valley. And then we have invited an ecologist to come in and do what's called a baseline survey. And the baseline survey, in fact, I've got it in my hand here, looks at the area of land and identifies all the species that we've got here already, so that we create a baseline. We know what our starting point is. And then, having done that, we can then say, given this baseline, here are the improvements that we're going to make, and here's how long we think it will take. And then there is a very clever spreadsheet that has been developed by the government, by DEFRA, and that comes up with what is called the biodiversity metric. And that is a calculation that tells us how many units are being created of biodiversity net gain. So you plug in the baseline, you plug in the things that you're going to be doing, and it spits out a number. And then once you've got that number, those are the units that you have to sell to developers. That's not quite as simple as it sounds, because in order to be confident that a farmer or a landowner is going to commit this, you've also got to go into a contract with your local council. And we're in the process of doing that at the moment. And that involves working on an agreement with them, which is called a Section 106, that commits this land for 30 years to this project. And in addition to that, we've also got to have in place what's called an HMMP, a Habitat Management and Monitoring Plan, which says in detail how we're going to manage the site. And if it's a wildflower meadow, we've got to graze it. You know, we've got to bring animals in here to graze it off. We can't just allow it to take off on its own, because certain species will dominate and you won't then have the variety of species that we're looking for. And so we've got to manage it, but we've also got to monitor it. So we've got to come back and say, are we achieving the goals? Have we got the variety of species that we were aiming for? Has the seed worked? Has it germinated in the way that we'd hoped? And how has the thing developed over the 30-year period? So that's another responsibility that we have. You get paid up front, but you've got 30 years of costs, and that means you've really got to be sure of your sums and you've got to be sure of your commitment, because 30 years, that's a long time. This is such a wonderful field here at Mapperton. You've got so many different aspects. You're looking north in that direction. You're looking west up towards Marsh Farm. This is called Storage Valley down the bottom. You're looking up the hill towards Coltley, and it's a magnificent field. But just think how much more wonderful it's going to be when it's full of wildflowers and full of the hum of wonderful insects flying around, enjoying their nectar. It's a project that I'm really looking forward to seeing develop over these next few years.